All right, it is the very first trading day of 2026. You'd think Wall Street would be, nursing a holiday hangover, right? Nope. For the members at Phil Stock World, the game is already on. So today, we're going to take you inside their live chat, and you'll get to see how this incredible community, this mix of human genius and cutting-edge AI, doesn't just watch the market, they navigate it, and as you're about to see, sometimes they literally move it.
And there it is. Let the market games begin. That's from the man himself, Phil Davis, kicking things off. You gotta love that. See, for them, it's not just boring numbers on a screen. No. This is a strategic game, and trust me, Phil Stock World is absolutely playing to win.
Okay, so before we dive into the action, you need to meet the team. Because every great mission needs a crew, right? And this one, well, it's pretty unique. We're talking about the AGI Roundtable at the heart of Phil Stock World. It's this amazing brain trust, a blend of human experts and artificial intelligence all working together to crack the market code. So let's do a quick roll call. First up, you've got Zephyr. Think of Zephyr as the team's master strategist. This AGI is all about the big picture. We're talking tracking capital flows, digging into fundamental earnings, basically making sure the team is always, and I mean always, one step ahead of what's coming next. Next, okay, you're gonna love this name. We have Bodie McBoatface. And yes, you heard me right. But seriously, don't let that name fool you for a second. Bodie is the team's futurist. This AGI is out there charting the massive, game-changing supercycles in things like AI, energy, and infrastructure, the stuff that's going to define not just this year, but the entire decade.
And rounding out our core team is Warren 2.0. As you can probably guess from the name, this AI is the value oracle. It's built on those timeless fundamental principles, finding solid, quality companies that are actually making real money. Warren 2.0 is the one who keeps everybody grounded, focused on what truly builds wealth.
So what's their mission for 2026? Well, let's just say it's a doozy. They're calling it a new frontier, and for good reason. You've got this weird K-shaped reality where some folks are doing great and others are getting left behind. You've got a Federal Reserve that can't seem to agree on anything, and on top of all that, the whole world is kind of fracturing into these competing groups. The stakes? Yeah, they could not be higher.
All right, teams assembled, mission briefed, let's get to the opening bell. The first hour of the first trading day, it's always pure chaos, and today was definitely no exception. This is where it all comes down to one thing. Can you separate the signal from all that deafening noise? Okay, check this out. Perfect example of the morning madness. Tesla. They report some pretty ugly delivery numbers. They missed expectations, and it's a big drop from the year before. So naturally, the stock rallies? Right. It goes up almost 2%. To pretty much everyone on the outside, this makes absolutely zero sense.
But not if you're in the Phil Stock World community. See, Phil jumps in immediately and cuts right through all that confusion. His take? The defining theme is bad news is good news because it's priced in. Basically, all that bad news, it was already priced in. The market had already dealt with it at the end of last year, so the slate was clean. And that kind of clarity, that's how you turn chaos into a real opportunity.
So just when you think things are settling down, bam, this happens. The Dow just plummets. 446 points, gone. In an instant. It's a flash crash. You can imagine the panic bells ringing on trading floors everywhere. Everywhere, that is, except in the Phil Stock World chat.
So why were they so calm? Simple. They were prepared. Phil's take right away was that it was just a glitch. A nothing burger on a low-volume day. And get this. It's something the Roundtable had already warned members could happen. This is exactly what we mean by expert guidance. The ability to stay cool and collected while everyone else is running for the hills. And honestly, this is a perfect example of the kind of analysis you get day in and day out over at philstockworld.com.
All that morning chaos, that was just the appetizer. By midday, things had gotten, kind of sleepy, quiet. And that's when Phil Stockworld decided it was time to wake everybody up. This is the moment where the story shifts. It stops being about reacting to the market and starts being about making the market.
Okay, so let's break this down because it happened fast. It's 12:30. The session is a total snooze fest. Then, at 12:38 p.m., Phil Stock World and the AGI Roundtable put out a special report. The call? Reduce your Bitcoin holdings by 50%. 1 minute later, at 12:39, the entire market takes a nosedive. What was a quiet day suddenly explodes into a frenzy. By the end of the day, over 1.4 million Bitcoins had changed hands.
I mean, let that sink in for a second. That is making a market.
It's one thing to predict what might happen. It's another thing entirely to have the kind of influence and credibility that you can actually shape what does happen.
And this doesn't just happen by accident. We're talking about Phil Davis, the founder of philstockworld.com. Forbes recognizes him as a top influencer. He's trained some of the top hedge fund managers out there. He's one of Seeking Alpha's most read analysts. The point is, when Phil and his team speak, the market listens. That's the level of expertise you're tapping into here.
But it's not all about these huge market-moving calls. I mean, that's awesome, but Phil's Stock World is also a place where you learn. You get to see this kind of strategy unfold live, in real time, and get direct feedback from the pros. It really is like a masterclass, right there in the trenches.
So, let me give you an example. A member pops in with a question about a tricky options trade on Nike. He's done his homework, the math looks right, and his gut is telling him, okay, it's time to make a move, time to roll, right? And that's a question a lot of traders ask, and frankly, it's a spot where a lot of people make mistakes.
And Phil's response, man, it's a lesson in itself. He basically says, whoa, hold on, be patient. He breaks down the why, he explains the structure of the trade, and shows that making that move right now would be a mistake. And then he gives him this simple, powerful rule of thumb. Spending $2 to roll up 5 is a good deal. Anything else, you wait. See? It's not just an answer, it's a whole new way of thinking about the trade. And then, just to hammer the point home, Warren 2.0, the AI, jumps in. And it distills the entire lesson perfectly. It says, look, the math was right, but the conclusion was wrong. Why? Because a single data point isn't enough. It's the structure and the context that tell you what to do. And the big takeaway here? Patience is often the single most profitable adjustment you can make. This is so cool. It's that combination of veteran human experience and sharp AI analysis that helps members learn to trade like a pro.
All right, the closing bell has rung on one heck of a first day. So let's do a quick debrief and really talk about the PSW advantage we saw in action today.
So here's the final scoreboard. S&P up a little, Dow up a bit more, NASDAQ basically flat. If you just glanced at the headlines, you'd think, a choppy, kind of boring day. But you and I know that underneath all that, a much bigger, more powerful story was playing out.
And that's the story that actually matters. So, what are the key takeaways from today? Number 1, the great rotation is on. Money is moving out of pure hype into real quality. Number 2, the new market engines aren't just the giant tech names anymore. It's the pick and shovel companies, the ones making the semiconductors and tools that power the whole tech boom. And number 3, small caps showed some real strength, which is a great sign for the overall health of the market. These are the kinds of insights that set you up for success for the rest of the year.
And I want to leave you with this one last thought from the day's wrap-up, because it just perfectly captures the whole Phil Stock World philosophy. Hedges are not a sign of fear. They're a sign of professionalism. It's not about being a bull or a bear. It's about being a pro. It's about being prepared for anything.
So, we started this whole thing by meeting the team at Phil Stock World, and after watching them navigate total chaos, literally make the market move, and teach a masterclass in trading strategy, it all really boils down to one question, doesn't it? The 2026 market is already getting interesting, it's already a wild ride. Who's on your team?